morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. Now, I've had this gentleman on my podcast before, and I've been so looking forward to this conversation because it's really about the bare bones of what we can do with clubs and then how it grows into communities and then it helps not just the individuals but the broader community and their families. And Don Tilley is the expert to talk about this. Don's diverse career has been in senior management roles across FMCGs, gaming and casinos, owning and operating a supermarket and a bottle shop for 3 years and four holdups. My goodness me, no wonder you finally sold that. And finally, 13 years ago, moving into charity world with Learning Links. And now with Gotcha for Life. In so many of those roles, he worked closely with clubs, but it was only when he started at Learning Links that he realized how much clubs actually do in the community. Welcome, to the podcast, Don. It's so lovely to have you back again. I know the last time you shared so much wonderful information about Learning Links and the good work that they do with school children here. But now let's talk about Gotcha for Life. But I want to hear a little bit more about you, and I know my listeners do because we've got so many more since your last interview, is that you've spent 12 years at Learning Links and before making the move to Gotcha for Life. What happened in those 12 years that made you say yes to a new chapter and that move to Gotcha for Life?
Well, there was nothing sinister. I had 12 wonderful years at Learning Links, a wonderful charity,
Mm,
and we were able to build it up fairly dramatically over that time with a whole host of terrific people in the organisation.
yes.
But I think the last year I was there, we had a record year,
Mm.
and I thought to myself, what a good time to go. Let someone else come in and take on the next chapter.
Mm,
And so I guess I just woke up one day and thought I need to do something else. And
mm.
it's quite interesting because when I left, I think one third of the people thought I was retiring. I wasn't. The second third of the people thought that I had another role. I didn't. And the other third didn't care, and I don't blame them. Um, but the gotcha story was interesting because as I said, when I left, I had no role to go to.
Right.
I knew roughly what I wanted to do, and that was to stay in the club industry and
Mm,
work with clubs. Um, but I didn't know where. So I'd spoken to Gotcha for Life in November,
mm.
where we went to a presentation they did at Mounties, and Gus got up and spoke.
Yes.
And I thought then, they're working with kids in schools, Learning Links do the same. Maybe there's some synergies. So I
Mm,
said, can we catch up? Which we did. And there wasn't really anything that we could work on together.
mm,
But they spoke about club grants and said that, they'd sort of touched their toe in the water, but hadn't done a lot.
mm,
And I just said, listen, if there's anything I can do to help you, just let me know. And I'm happy to provide some experience to Josie, who runs the program and head of
mm.
philanthropy there. I got a call in January from the CEO to say we want to talk to you some more about club grants, and to my surprise, they said we want you to come and work with us. And I thought, wow, what a fabulous charity this is,
Yes.
an amazing opportunity.
Mm,
And I jumped at the chance. I started off as a fundraising consultant in March,
mm.
and then in August, I joined the organisation in a 3-day-a-week role, which has gone to a lot more than that during the club grant period, but that's okay. That's how it all started, and I've been there since, and it's been amazing. I just love what we do there. It's just
Yes, yeah. And thank you for giving us that backstory because I know, you worked so hard at Learning Links. And if I remember correctly, Don, I think when you started with them, you were really just going in there for helping them out, and then all of a sudden it became this long-term career for you, didn't it?
it was a short-term role,
Yes.
which turned out to I forgot to leave until 12 years later, and but it was terrific, and I'm so fortunate to have gone from one great charity to another great charity.
Yes, yes.
I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah, and you're right. Gotcha for Life. I've seen Gus speak at a number of conferences here in Australia, and he is so passionate about the cause. But over the last couple of years, it's been that ripple, and it's been getting stronger and stronger. And now having you on board and really getting in there, explaining to the clubs, all clubs, about what it is, getting those club grants to help even more children. I know we're going to have a more of a discussion shortly of exactly what Gotcha for Life is, but you've worked alongside clubs, and I think that there is that strong connection. Like myself, it's been over 30 years, and the registered club industry is a beautiful industry, not just the people that work there, but the broader community that come through the doors. And in that time, you've worked in that FMCG area, that gaming and casinos, but you've said it wasn't until Learning Links that you truly understood what clubs actually do for the community. And I think that happens a lot, with our people in our community, even our members and guests, is that they see the club there for themselves, don't they? It's that meal, it's having a drink, it's some entertainment, it's catching up from friends, but they don't actually always understand what's behind all that. What's the club's actually, why are they there? And I think, when we look at regional areas, we see clubs coming in when there's fire and there's flood. But it's understanding, and when when our eyes are open and we actually see, wow, this is what clubs do for the community. What did you see that really changed your perspective going from that club and then seeing, okay, this is how they can, and this is how they do make a big difference in that community space?
I guess I'd been at Learning Links about a month when I went to Club Central, did
Mhm.
a club grants ceremony where they hand out the checks, which I don't do anymore, but they directly debit it. But I was there and was staggered to hear that they'd given away just under $1 million in
Mm,
grants, and I had no idea. I had
yeah.
no idea at all, and I sat there. And I said to somebody, "Is this serious? Is it that much?" And they said, "Absolutely."
Mm,
And that's just one club.
yeah.
And I was driving home that night, and my brother-in-law rang me, who runs a hi-fi business in Mona Vale, and he said, "What are you up to?" And I told him, and he said, "What?" He said, "Clubs give that much money. One club gives that much money." And I said, "You know they're not for profit, don't you?" He said, "No."
Mm,
He said, "I had no idea." And I said, "Well, you're not the only one." And he wasn't the only one.
mm,
So many people that I've spoken to have no idea what clubs do.
yeah.
And I didn't. I mean, I worked with clubs. With
Mm, yeah.
IGT, I was there 5 years,
Mm,
and working with clubs and casinos. That was the whole role. And
yes.
I still didn't know. So, but the second part, what then happened over the period of time I was there, I really got to see what clubs do and how committed they are to community. And again, people don't know that.
Mm,
And when I had opportunities to talk to patrons, during my time at Learning Links, when you tell them about what their club is doing,
yeah.
they would stand up and give you a round of applause.
Mm,
They this so clubs. One of the things clubs needed to do, and I think they're doing it better now, is to let their own community know what they do for
yes.
community, because there's so many great things that clubs do. And I spent a lot of time in the last year I was at Learning Links talking to politicians and doing videos and the like on club grants and what would happen if
Mhm.
that club grant system got changed dramatically, which was looking like it could well happen at one stage.
Yes.
And I was really quite passionate about it because charities like Learning Links and others would survive if the whole structure changed. But that mum and dad charity with two volunteers in Western Sydney schools,
Yeah.
they would disappear off the face of the earth. And
Mm,
so, from where I'm sitting, there's been some changes, but no major ones, which is good.
mm,
And clubs have got so much better over the years of really talking about themselves. And I know the associations do a great job with that as well.
yes.
But it needs to continue because there's still so many people I talk to got no idea what clubs do, and it's a real shame.
Yeah, it is. And I think, we've talked about that for a long time, Don, within the industry. We've got to talk about ourselves. We've got to tell people what we do. And, the last few years, I've seen that massive mindset shift in clubs actually employing somebody who just works directly with the community. And I've had some amazing, guests on my podcast from various clubs. And one that really springs to mind quite recently was Jenny Holt from Club
Yeah.
Rivers. And Jenny was saying, it was even hard trying to even get an interview into some of these places to actually say, we're happy to give you money, at schools, because they didn't understand, well, why would you want to give us money? And it's that education as what you're doing, Don, in saying to people, this is what clubs do, and they're helping us to be able to provide for, whatever the charity is doing. So it's great to see that it's been changing now for the last few years, but we have to continue banging
Yep.
the drum, so to speak,
Yep.
to let people know that we're here, that we can provide this assistance to them.
And you touched on it. Whenever there's, a, a calamity of some sort out in the community, the clubs are first to put their hand up.
Yes.
And regional areas, but also in Sydney metropolitan areas.
Mm,
And there's been a number of things that have happened over the years. Like floods. Even places like Richmond and Windsor and that
yes.
area, or things that have happened on the northern beaches.
Mm,
With clubs virtually disappearing off the face of the earth.
mm.
But they get behind it and they support it, and they're the place that everybody goes to when there's a real problem. And from my point of view, they just need to be congratulated.
Yes, definitely. And they're for everybody in the community, no matter how young, how old, or where you're from. You can go to a club and you can feel that you belong and that you're welcomed. So let's talk a little bit more about Gotcha for Life, because, people may or may not have heard about this program and what you actually do. So if you can just give us an outline, Don, please, of what is the project actually doing on the ground, and what does success look like, not just for the charity, but for the communities it actually touches.
It's an amazing charity. The program that we're working on with clubs is the Mentally Fit Primary School program. But before I get into that, just give you a bit of background of how the charity started. So Gus was overseas about 9 years ago when he got a phone call to say that one of his best mates had taken his own life.
Mm,
So he came home for the funeral and he said to people, "Did you know? What about you? You? Anybody?" Nobody knew, which
mm,
is so common and so sad.
mm,
So he said, "This is wrong. We've got to change this." And so he set up Gotcha for Life,
mm,
and which initially was a men's charity, but very soon it became apparent that it's not only men, but women,
mm.
youth, and regrettably children
Yes.
who suffer from mental illness. So
Mm,
that's how the charity was formed. One of the objectives of the charity is to make sure people don't worry alone,
mm.
because so many people take their own life and people have no idea because they've had nobody to talk to. And
Yes.
so that was how it started. Now, this particular program is a whole of community approach, whole
Mm,
of school, whole of community. So we work with parents, we work with teachers, we work with children on this program about building their mental fitness.
mm,
And when we work with children, there are three factors that we work on. The first one is building their emotional muscles. So when kids have an issue, so it's DV at home, family breakup, bullying at school, poor performance at school, kids tend to internalize these
mm.
issues. And so what happens then is that, it just builds up and the depression starts. And so what we do is we teach them ways to externalize that and to talk to people about it. The second protective factor is to have your own village. So
Mm.
people that you can go and talk to, whether it's mum and dad, whether it's teachers, relatives, friends, someone you can talk to and talk to them about what is inside you and what is
Yes.
causing you problems, because we don't want people to worry alone. And
Mm,
they're the three things that we work on. As I said, we work with parents, teachers, and children. So when we go into a school, we're now in 68 schools. Was 28 last year, 68 this year. My
gosh.
hope is it'll get to 90 at the end of the current club grant period.
Mm,
Club grant people out there, remember 90 is a good number. Um, so we work with those people now. I went to a parent night that our educators held, where there's about 30 parents in the room, and they were talking to them about their mental fitness and their children's. And it was a bit quiet to start with. And then
mm.
after 10 minutes, the floodgates opened and people spoke about their issues. They spoke about their children, how they can work with their children. And the two educators that we had there were just doing an amazing job on
Mm.
giving them feedback and strategies to work with. When it finished, the lady sitting next to me, who I'd never met before in my life, turned to me and she said, "I hate saying this, but I'm so happy I'm not the only one who felt like I did when I walked in the room. I thought it was me." I thought
Wow.
I was a lousy parent. I'm going to leave here today with the strategies to make sure that I can cope with my issues and with my son's issues. This has been life changing for me. And
Mm.
this is the sort of feedback we get across the board. So it's a unique program. It's a preventative program.
Yes.
Right? It's a program that we get to early intervention. We work with the teachers so they can run the program when we're not there, but we're there up to 10 times a year where we
Gosh.
work with parents, teachers, and students. And we've just been in the middle of, and today, even at 12 o'clock, I'm down at Uncliffe Public School, where we do assemblies. And
Mm.
so you'll go in there, whole of school, every child in the school is in the assembly, teachers on the outside, some of the parents there as well, and our educators take the kids through the program. And this is their first glimpse of it before, for the rest of the year now, when the educators go to the school, they keep working with these children.
Right.
Awesome. It's
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
And you spoke about Jenny Holt. You asked Jenny what she thought of the assembly when she went there. She hasn't stopped talking about it. And that's the feedback I've got from so many people that we've taken to these assemblies. So
Mm.
we do that. In year 5, we have a showcase where we go. And last year we went to Western Sydney Uni. We had 18 schools there. And
Goodness.
what the students did was they presented back to parents, teachers, and funders what they'd learned through the Gotcha for Life program. It is
Right.
awesome. It
Mm.
is awesome. I showed some people last week, 2 interviews I did, club ground interviews I did. They cried both times. Now, normally when I talk, people cry. It's normally make him stop
Yes.
talking. But on this occasion, it was the passion of what they
Yes.
saw in those particular programs.
Mm.
And in the video that we do of it, Gus quite clearly says, and it's so true, this should be in every school in New South Wales. It should be in the curriculum. The
Yes.
other thing that we do, which I think is so great, is that in year 6, we do a transition to high school program. When you're in year 6 at primary school, you've got the same teacher in year
Yes.
7, teacher who knows you, who knows your strengths, your weaknesses. In year 7, you're going to have different teachers for each subject. In
Mm.
year 6, you're the big fish in the little pond.
Yeah.
In year 7, you're probably going to get a whack over the back of the head from a year 10, whether you need it or not. So
Yes.
we teach them the strategy. But again, when you look at the video, it's really interesting how the kids are coming up with so many of these different ideas.
Mm.
It's a 3-year program. It's a
Oh.
program that builds their mental fitness. Unfortunately, 50% of mental health issues emerge before the age of 14.
Mm.
That's why this program is so critical, to get to those children and make sure that we can give them the skills that they need. Regrettably, in Australia, we lose 9 people every day on average to suicide.
Shock.
That's 3,300 a year, 2.5 times the national road toll. It's something that it's just terrible. It's just terrible that it's happening, and what we're trying to do is certainly minimise that, and if we could eradicate it, it'd be even better.
Mm.
So, in a nutshell, that's the program. It's been so well accepted by the community, by clubs in the community,
Mm.
and we see it as a program that we're going to continue to grow.
Don, those statistics are shocking. And as you said, for a young country as Australia is, in the sense of us, growing in a society, and so much joy that we have in this country, and there's beautiful sunshine, and we've got lots of space, and we even have a great health, well, we have a health system, we have all these things, but still these numbers are so high. We just can't understand why they are. So having programs like what you're doing there, Gotcha for Life, is what I enjoyed hearing, if I can use that word, was it's not just the children, it's the parents, and hearing that mother say, and I'm a mother, you know, you can do your best, can't you? But you just don't
Mhm.
know. What's that impact? You send them off to school. I've got grandchildren now, and that's my thought. It's this social media. And yes, going into high school, my grandson's just gone into high school, but I had that same, and at least it's in his country area, and they had a choice of going to 2 schools. And you could have chosen either one, but they chose the one that where his mates were going. And and we all decided that was the most critical. Was it going to be the best education? Was it going to give him all the thing? But this was no, what was more important was going with his friends and having that friendship group. I went to a school, Don, that only had 10 kids in our primary school. There were three of us in year six, and then I went to a boarding school, and that was absolute shock. And I really still don't think I'm over it all these years later, because it was traumatizing, the bullying and the association. So, getting in there now, and as you said, that 3-year program, and having that opportunity to give them those skills, not only the children but their parents, because to me that's the big thing. The parents don't always see the signs, do they? Like exactly what Gus was saying. Nobody knew that his friend was in that mental health space to take his life. And so, it feels like it's an uphill battle, but at least with programs Gotcha for Life, we're trying to, you're trying to make some sort of indent, and hopefully that will grow. And, going to 90 schools, that would be excellent. And it's just here in New South Wales, isn't it?
Yep. Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
We are starting in Queensland. We just put our toe in the water in Queensland, so that's
Perfect.
that's happening
Yes.
as well. So there's a few schools up there.
Mm.
But by year 2030, we're looking to be in 250 schools. That's the
Wow.
goal. We
Yes.
would work with 160,000 parents, teachers,
Mm.
and children. So two
Yes.
things from what you said. Firstly, with your grandson going to a school where his mates, he's got a village. He's got a
Mm.
village there, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Have a village where you can go to, and you've got people that you can talk to, people who can protect you,
Mm.
people where you can protect them. So
Yes, yeah. You'll
that's
probably still get a clip over the
important.
years from a year 10. I think there were probably more of
Yeah.
a year 8 student. They're always pretty cocky, year 8. They think they know everything. Don't they? I think they think, oh, we're out of that. We're out of the small pond. We're out of the big pond as the small fish. We've got somebody else now that we can pick on. But that's also that's just life too, isn't it? Like I'm sure you had it at school, Don, but today I think it doesn't stop in the playground. It follows them home. And I think that's where the difference is. For you and I, it stopped in the playground, because when you went home, you didn't have that phone that was telling you and making all these horrible things that people say on it. So it's a different world. So I love this program and hearing, but it's what are these clubs doing? Because when I see registered clubs, they have such a big impact across the community, don't they, Don? Not only from being sometimes one of the major employers in
Mhm.
areas, whether that's city or regional areas, but also it's the tens of thousands of people that are members. So from where you sit, what is the role that clubs play in that mental fitness and community connection that most people, including even club leaders themselves, aren't fully recognizing?
I think, to be fair, it's improving.
Oh,
If I go
definitely.
back to when I first started working with clubs on grants, you wouldn't talk about mental illness. It was
Yes,
it was a
yeah.
weakness,
Mm,
especially for a guy. I mean, like the last thing you want to say is, I've got issues, I've got worries, I've got problems.
mm,
That's changed so much, and it's changed in a little bit because I think if you look at the club grants scheme this year and last year, where councils will put out priorities, the top two priorities have been DV and mental health.
right.
So I
Yeah.
think from there, clubs are really starting to embrace that, and I'm seeing that.
Mm,
Some clubs do it better than others. There's some clubs that don't do it too well at all.
mm,
But I think most clubs are of the understanding of the dangers of mental health
mhm.
issues and what it can do, not only to their own families, but to their staff
Yes.
and to the community itself. So I think it's improving,
Mm,
but there's still more work to be done. I think one of the areas that we need help in as we move forward is
mm,
regional areas who suffer from flood, from disengagement, from drought, all the things that happen in those areas, and the fact that in a lot of the regional areas there isn't the professional help that you need if
no,
you do end up with mental health issues. So
no.
again, having that prevention program there is just so essential. So I guess for all the regional clubs out there, if you can help us. Get into schools in that area with funding, that would make a massive difference to your community.
Mm,
But to answer your question, I think that they're doing a much better job than they were.
Yes.
But you don't need to be sick to get better, do you? I think that there's things that we can all do together to get that message across
Mm,
to the community again of what clubs do and how clubs can make a difference.
mm. And I think programs like yours, with Gotcha for Life, it's they can go to the clubs and go, this is what we can do. Because, I find sometimes people just don't know where to start.
Mm.
And so when they have you coming to them, it's like, okay, we don't have to start from the actual down here and think of something ourselves. We could grab onto a program like Gotcha for Life, support you, and knowing that supporting the community and getting themselves out there and then growing that community help and understanding what their club grants are doing for the community, but also the community understanding what the club's doing for them as well. So yeah, it's small steps, but I think we're starting to get a trot on now. We're starting to move, which
I
is
think so.
fantastic, which is really, really good. If a club CEO or general manager is listening to this podcast, which I hope they are right now, what is that one thing you want them to walk away and do or consider doing differently when it comes to that community connection and mental fitness?
I think there's a couple of things that they can do. The first thing I'd suggest that they look at is their own staff.
Mm,
Now, when you consider the amount of people that are employed by clubs, when you consider that 1 in 2 people over the past few months have considered their mental health issues.
mm,
So there's going to be a lot of people who work for clubs who may be struggling on the inside that we don't know about.
yes.
We run Kickstarter programs where we go and we work with clubs and their staff on those programs. So I think that
Mhm.
that's important to do that. It's obviously important to from our point of view to have the funding to be able to go out and do it in the community. So as I said, we're in 68 schools, but when you think of the number of schools in New South Wales, there's a whole lot of opportunities where we can not only change children's lives and parents' lives and teachers' lives, but actually save them as well. The
Yeah.
other thing that's really interesting that's worth looking at is the mental fitness app that we have.
All right.
So for people that want to have a look at that, and I've spoken to a number of clubs about it, and a few clubs have already done what I've suggested. And what I've suggested is they have a look at it. It's free of charge. You've had a lousy day. You left home in the morning and you've had an argument with your partner, and or you get to work and you've had a shocker. We've all had those days, and you sit
Mm,
down with a cup of coffee. You take your phone out. You look at the app, and it'll give you tips. It'll give you strategies on what to do. There's so many different things from professionals in there who can help you and lift you back up again.
right.
And I would recommend that to every single club out there, and also for clubs to talk to their patrons about it because
Mm,
a lot of the patrons are in the same boat. This doesn't discriminate. It just
mm,
doesn't discriminate mental illness. So mental fitness to be able to cope with that is
mm,
just so important. So there's a couple of things that clubs can think about
mm,
to lift their staff back up and then work with us on community to get the parents, the teachers and kids to
mm.
a level where they don't worry alone.
Yes. And what's the name of that app, please, Don?
It's just a Gotcha for Life mental fitness app.
Gotcha for life.
It'll be
So
on
I
your
will certainly put a link into that. I'm just thinking,
thank you.
I'll put it on my website, but I think if clubs do that, they could put it on the website so the community can look at it and it's there for them because a lot of people will go to a club website to see, well, what are the bistro specials or the promotions are on, is bingo
Yeah.
on today, but it could be just at that moment they could see that app and go, oh, what's this, and it could be a great way. But also all clubs have got some form of intranet for their payroll and for all their employees, even having it there. I know I was speaking to, and I'm training the leadership team and coaching them at the Epping Club, and
Yep.
the wonderful Rachel Landers, who's the P&C executive director there, was saying to me, "Oh, we've got your podcast." On our portal for for our team. So when the team open it up, there's my podcast there on the portal, so they can go and listen to it
Nice.
and hear people say. So I'm thinking that would also be great, having it there, Don. That it's not something that they've got to peck and find on the app. They can actually have it there on the intra portals. So even I'm
Yeah.
not sure you've already
Great
suggested
idea.
that to clubs, yeah, to have something like that as well. But I think the easier we can make it for people to find, then they don't feel like, oh well, I'll do it later. It's there in front of them then.
Sure.
And I love
Right.
that idea, just having it on your phone, because yes, we all do that. We'll sit down for that tea or coffee and we pick this stupid thing up instead of doom scrolling and make ourselves even feeling worse. We can actually look on that app and give us some ideas. So, and I'll certainly promote it as well as much as I
Thank you.
possibly can, Don, because I think anything that helps not just our community, but ourselves, our community within our registered clubs, because we touch so many people, of all different age groups. We've got 7 different generations if you include the little alphas now coming to our clubs, and we've got 4 generations working in the workplace. We've got a lot of people, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that we meet and see each day, don't we, within our
You
beautiful
do.
club industry that we can talk to. So we'll put it out there. Look, I will certainly put some links to Gotcha for Life, but how can my listeners and viewers actually contact you, Don? I know some of the industry would know you, but I think we can be out there for all these years and people will go, who? What? What's Gotcha for Life? And you think, oh, it's everywhere. So
Absolutely.
how can they get involved with Gotcha for Life?
So you can go to gotchaforlife.org. That'll
Hmm.
take you to our website, and there's a whole lot of information there that'll excite you. You can contact me directly at don.tilley@gotchaforlife.org,
Hmm.
or you can even ring me, and people still use the telephone these days.
Yes.
Quite amazing, isn't it? They can get me on 0431 790 784, and love to chat to anybody who A, wants to know more about the charity, or B, wants to become involved with us.
Mm.
We're so fortunate that we have a lot of partners out there, and we are changing the lives of children, and as I said, saving some lives as well. So that's a great cause.
Yeah, definitely. Look, it is changing and saving lives of children, but also their families. That
Yep,
what a community, and
most
I
importantly.
think that's a big point. Before we wrap it up, Don, and I really thank you so much for joining me today, because I know you've always got a busy schedule. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you wanted to share about Gotcha for Life?
No, no, no. You've been very generous with your time, and you've given me the opportunity to talk about this amazing charity. I think people have probably heard enough from me by now, and ready to move on. But I think again, it's a preventative charity,
Mm.
and it's something that is just so needed in the community, and our talented people that have put these programs together are just amazing.
Yes, it is. And let's get it out there. Have 90 schools before the end of this year. That would be fantastic.
I'll let you know.
All
I'll let you
right.
know.
Thank you so much, Don, for joining me.
No, and thank you for having me, Michelle. I really appreciate it. Take care.
I will.